Everyone. Welcome to a very, very special episode of whatever the show, the Frumess show, the Frumess channel, whatever. We're doing this is our big Batman show. We sort of warmed up. Chris and I warmed up on the Sinful Celluloid podcast, discussing the previous Batman movies. And the goal tonight was to get sort of like a round table panel of various different figures that come on this channel from time to time to weigh in on the new Batman movie. I'm very interested to hear. I don't know what anybody else. There's only one person who I know how they feel about the movie. Everybody else, I don't know what their opinions are. So it's going to be, there's going to be a lot of discovery on this sort of in this sort of podcast. Just to go around real quick, we have the Bob Rose. He is also a podcast filmmaking extraordinaire, thundergrunt.com. We have Nate-Dogg, who is probably one of the most passionate consumers of media that I know. He has really good he has really good takes, sometimes hot takes on the stuff that he loves, and sometimes he could be a little grumpy or uncompromising, like when we got out of The Last Jedi and he decided that he would never watch another Star Wars thing ever again.
True to my word.
True to his word.
Wow.
Then at the bottom we have Nathan Ludwig, who is the mastermind leader, spiritual leader of the Genre Blast Film Festival. He is a filmmaker. He is a writer. He's got novellas coming out. He's producing a movie, Worst Laid Plans, which is an anthology based on the book, the anthology book. We'll put all the links for everybody's stuff at a later time after the show wraps. And lastly, but not leastly, we have my friend Christopher M. Jimenez, filmmaker, the mastermind behind Sinful Celluloid, the website. You go to sinfulcelluloid.com. We also do the Sinful Celluloid podcast on this channel as well. Chris is just, this dude eats, lives, breathes cinema, knows his stuff inside and out. If you look on follow him on Instagram, if you want to see what his morning movie watch is, if you want recommendations, but he can go deep with his deep cuts. And last but not least, we have me. We all know who I am. I don't need to introduce myself. And together we are here to discuss the Batman. I don't know if you heard me breathe really heavy, but that's on purpose for dramatic effect. This is going to be a little difficult, people, because there's a lot of us. We're going to try our best to navigate this conversation. So here's what I want to do. Let's go back around, and everybody in a couple of minutes, try to have some brevity here. Give us an over. And the other thing, too, one thing I want to say, while we should be talking, while the other movies can come into context, like Nolan's movies or the Warner Brothers movies, the primary focus here is the Batman. We are here to talk about the Batman. We can compare and contrast, but it's not, and I'm the worst offender here of doing that. I'll veer off in 2 seconds. I'm going to be very strict on myself and everybody else about that. So we're going to go around in a couple minutes. Did you love it? Or did you hate it? Very quick. Let's go around, starting with Bob, and we'll move clockwise.
Why does it got to start with me? All right. So I love Matt Reeves, and I actually love R. Pats as an actor. I rolled my eyes at this movie even existing. Like when the first trailers came out, I was like, didn't we just do this? That was my whole kind of vibe on this movie. But Matt Reeves did actually make my favorite movie of last decade. So I can't totally hate on it. It totally won me over. I thought it was excellent. I love it. I have slight criticisms of it, but overall I really love it. But I want to say, in no way is it my favorite anything of Batman. I can say I loved it and it was excellent, but it is not remotely. Actually, I have a list real quick. I made a list for my other show, and I decided I would read it here. It's just a few points. It's my ninth favorite Batman movie.
Wow.
My fifth favorite Batman, my third favorite Batman suit, my fourth favorite Batmobile, my fourth favorite Alfred, my third favorite Riddler, my third favorite Penguin, and my fourth favorite Catwoman. But see, I'm not like Twitter. I can say all that, and I can still say I loved it, and I can't wait to actually see it again. So, just because it's not my favorite doesn't mean I didn't love it.
Respect, Bob.
Yeah.
Respect, Bob. Nate-Dogg, go for it.
Okay. I am going to try and just say the things that stuck out the most for me. I did like.
Well, wait. Nate-Dogg, you just give us an overview before you get into that. Just give us just. Did you like it? Did you hate it?
I enjoyed this very, very much. My hot take is best actor for Robert Pattinson, best supporting actor for Paul Dano, and I will die on that hill. I was really impressed by their portrayals. They did stuff with their respective characters that I had never really seen. And I have a very difficult time of ranking stuff, but I do think that Paul Dano's Riddler is my favorite incarnation of the Riddler. Because instead of just, trying to dangle some annoying riddles over Batman to try and prove his mental superiority, this guy moved with like a real purpose. And that, like, almost more than like Heath Ledger's Joker, he knew what he wanted to do, and he was constantly moving towards it like a battering ram. Those are things I those I'm fine with that. Let's go to the next guy.
Awesome. That great takes there, Nate. Go ahead. And Nathan, let's hear it.
Well, my initial thought when it was over was that if they release an extended cut of this movie, I am going to pray for a meteor to take out our society. This is, how do you get more extended than this? I love the movie, don't get me wrong, but Jesus Christ, 3 hours. There's a couple scenes that could have been cut out. There's a couple scenes that don't work, but overall, a fantastic movie, really well done. But like I said, hopefully there's no more.
You don't want the Peter Jackson Blu-ray, right?
No more scenes. We don't need them. But yeah, very, very entertaining, engrossing, very Fincher-esque. We'll get into that.
Mr. Christopher.
I have been wanting to hate this movie for the past year and a half or so. I pretty much hated like 90% of the casting, and when I hate stuff, if you don't know, like, I fucking hate it with a passion. Like, I want to kick people in the throat and watch them die. I just no. I went, and much to my chagrin, I really liked it. I really, really like this movie. Is it my favorite? No. I'm a Nolan guy, but I'm there for the sequel. I want 3 of them or more. Like Nate, I don't know if I need a 4-hour cut. I don't know if I need the 4-hour cut. But I'm all in. I'm all in, despite many things.
Wow. I have to tell you, when I heard Chris say that, because I was expecting Chris to absolutely hate this movie. When I heard him say that, it really made me, I was like, I gotta see what's up with this movie. Because it was like, this kind of blew me away. All right. I'm going to state my take, and then I will catapult us into discussion of various things, and we'll see what happens. We'll see where the dice falls. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I briefly said one thing. That's the only thing I've said about this movie. I said it on Twitter. Some of you may have seen it. My comment, and it's this. It's that I think that when it comes to Batman, you have to look at Batman as the equivalent of Shakespeare. And maybe you're thinking that's quite a statement to make, but in the way that Shakespeare is open to interpretation, you can adapt Shakespeare for any sort of time and place and situation. I feel that Batman is the same. Batman is this malleable, adaptable thing. And while this was not what's always been my problem, and I'm a huge Batman guy, huge, and Nate knows this, Nate-Dogg knows this, and Bob knows this to an extent. I am a huge Batman guy. And when I would go see Batman movies, I'd always be like, yeah, I enjoy them, but it's never the perfect Batman. There was always something to criticize because they never quite got it right. And this is the first time I've been to a Batman movie and I watched it and I just go, I can enjoy this for the iteration that it is and the interpretation of what they are trying to do. Like, this does not need to be the definitive Batman movie. This is a Batman movie, and it's a great Batman movie at that. I do agree with what Nathan was saying. It is a little long. At the same time, I love that for the most part, I think every single thing, is like wrapped up in some way, shape, or form to satisfaction for me to an extent. I had a few problems with like character motivations and like little things. It did not take away from my absolute enjoyment of this film. I just really enjoyed the character. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to launch us into the performances or the actual character of Batman, and we'll just open it up. Robert Pattinson. Nathan, I have to agree. Nate-Dogg, I have to differentiate. Nate-Dogg, I have to agree, man. Robert Pattinson, I don't know if maybe for best, I don't know if Oscar worthy, but it's like his performance of Batman. I mean, it was so well crafted to me. And here's why it was well crafted. It's well crafted because I think that while there are many sort of things that encompass who Batman is, Robert Pattinson got to the core of Batman and his psychosis in a way that I don't think has been done yet with any live action adaptation. Does that mean it's perfect? No. And I have problems a little bit with the Bruce Wayne side of things, but I was very, very happy. Okay, that's it. Go ahead. Let's open it up.
Yeah, to kind of expand on your point, I've always looked at, I guess to compare him, I feel like Batman's polar opposite as far as superheroes would be like Spider-Man, where he's Peter Parker all the time and Spider-Man is the costume. But with Batman, I always saw it as the opposite. It's like he's Batman all of the time and Bruce Wayne is the costume. And I really felt like, yeah, Robert Pattinson may not be perfect, but I felt like he was using Bruce Wayne as the costume, and he looked and felt much more comfortable when he was wearing the Batman suit and being Batman.
That's
no argument. Agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100% correct. Yeah.
Yeah. What worked more for everyone in terms of how did you guys feel about the Bruce Wayne side of things?
I was actually fine with Bruce Wayne taking a little bit of a backseat, because I generally find the Bruce Wayne side of things a little less interesting for me personally when it comes to Batman. I don't know what that says about my Batman fandom, but you know that I'm not a Batman fan on the level of Jeff in any way, or probably anyone here. Probably, I'm a Superman guy. Sorry. Anyway, yeah, I don't mind his Bruce Wayne taking a backseat. Like, I don't need to see that much of it, and I think they used it just enough. They gave us just enough a picture, and I like the fact that his Bruce Wayne was kind of reserved. Completely, he wasn't a playboy. They didn't do any of that. It was just like his mental problems extended outward into Bruce Wayne. I like that.
Yeah, I like that they just accepted, Gotham City basically accepted the fact that this guy's weird, and they just leave him alone. And then he shows up to the funeral. They're like, oh, decided to come out of your cave. They're just like, yeah, they know this guy's a weirdo. His parents were murdered. Like, no shit, so they're not like, Bruce, you're the most eligible bachelor. Like, I hate it when they do that stuff, because if you live in that city, the history of that kid, and he's probably super fucked up in the head. So you're gonna give him a wide berth. I like that. And I like to treat, Batman is basically James Bond for me. Anyone can play him, and it's not going to make a difference. You just drop him into a story and just start telling us stories about Batman like it's a one-shot or one of the animated films. I don't need to see his parents being killed again, like fetishized. Like,
You don't want to see those pearls drop.
we all know that we get it. We all know. That's why I like the new Spider-Man movies, because they didn't do that. They didn't do that like with Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, which is why those are not the greatest films. But we get it. Everybody knows the origin of Batman. Just tell us a good story. So that's why part of the reason I really like this film is that they didn't treat you like a moron. And we're just like, okay, we all know who Batman is. Let's just tell a cracking good story. So,
right.
See, I like a good Bruce Wayne, but okay. As we've established, I already love the movie, but it really feels, and I know we've heard whispers and all that stuff. It feels like they cut around him a lot. Like that performance was made in the editing room. And part of that is just because I hate his fucking guts. But two, there's just so little of them. And when it's there, it's sort of piecemeal in a way. It's just kind of like, here's just enough to get us to the next scene. And so it feels like there's stuff missing. That being said, good point. Like, people would probably leave him alone. Plus, this is not the Bruce Wayne that we know and love yet. This is trying to figure himself out, Bruce Wayne.
Year two.
Year two. Somewhere to go. Right. You know, it gives him something to grow into. So, that's how I feel about it. I'm there, but I think that performance was not intense so much as it was created.
Interesting.
I like that the person that recognized him was one of the people he thinks is like the biggest scumbag on earth. Like, that's the person that recognized him in a crowd and talks to him. Like, that shows you how lonely he is. It's like Falcone is the one who's like, "Hey, buddy, what's up?" And he's like, that's like his worst enemy.
That is actually really true. And also, just another nod in that way. There is some serious. There's some seriously dry humor in this film. It's a super dark movie. There are these little moments, like they're tiny moments, like when the Penguin is bound with his arms and his legs, he starts waddling. And it's totally like, I totally like laughed out loud when that happened. It was such a nice little touch because, again, like the Nolan verse, this Batman world, whatever, is supposed to be very like real. Like, it's supposed to be very there's nothing, because that's the thing about Batman.
The Penguin's a fat guy,
right?
He's just a fat guy.
and like there's a spectrum when it comes to Batman. It's like fantastical camp, and then gritty, dark reality, and all of the all of
Lego Batman to Nolan.
Right. Well, I would say Batman and Robin.
Yeah, Batman and Robin to Nolan. Yeah.
Right. And so I would put this right, like maybe if Nolan is literally on one side of the spectrum, I would say that this is like maybe a little bit closer towards the middle, just slightly away from the Nolan
under it.
Are you talking about realism or darkness? Because this is definitely the darkest Batman film that there
definitely is. The darkest Batman film. Agreed. 100%.
If we were going like realism, the
realism.
The tonal realism scale,
yeah,
I would go like Nolan, then the Batman, then Snyder, and then somewhere, and then like Mask of the Phantasm, then like Keaton, Tim Burton-ish, then Schumacher.
I love that the cartoon is in the middle for you.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, because it's the fact that it's a cartoon, it kind of pushes it down a bit. But
well, I think the fact that it's a cartoon just like speaks to how campy and fantastical Batman and Robin is compared to. And now here's the thing, and I sort of, first of all, this Batman that we're getting is. I think it might be here's the thing. It doesn't encompass all of the stuff that makes Batman. None of them really do, but this one feels most authentic. As I said, that you feel the PTSD, like charred, like scar tissue, whatever you want to call it, of this person and his trauma manifesting itself in this way. And there was a thing I thought was so accurate, and I never thought about that with Batman before. Why doesn't Batman kill? And why doesn't Batman kill in this film in particular? And it's because And why does Batman just, instead of going after the systems of power, why does he go only after like low-level thugs or criminals? It's like he chases the criminals. He doesn't go after the system. And I think the reason is because he does want it to continue. He wants it to continue because that's the way that he gets out his aggression. As it's very common to, you've heard.
Oh, that's his arc in this movie, right?
Exactly. That's exactly what
my favorite part of the movie is.
Yeah,
literally.
That's what's so great.
I like the way his arc is written and it's framed, because in a way it kind of criticizes Batman a little bit, and I really like that. It's like kind of subversive, you know, especially that like third act twist. It's like, it's basically questioning everything about him, and he learns a lesson in the end. I mean, he actually learns to be better. It's not the way I phrased it before was he learns that it's not all about him.
Right.
It's about them.
Yes.
Yeah. If you're only fighting crime for your own vengeance, it's not, you're not doing it right.
And what's interesting is, you just like, I don't know what it. First of all, the score.
Yes.
This is the best
Oh
score
my God,
since
I
the
love
first
Star
Batman.
Wars.
Can I take a moment to just gush about Michael Giacchino, because he is one of my favorite composers to come out of like the modern era. Like the first thing I ever watched by him was Lost. And he does some of the most iconic character themes for the characters on that show. And the main theme for that show is it's just pure beauty. He also did the music for Rogue One. And that main theme for Rogue One is one of my favorite main themes for any movie in this century. And
he also did Cloverfield too with Matt Reeves, and that main title theme for Cloverfield is so epic and so amazing. That's when I first noticed him. Yeah, he's fantastic.
Did you do the Apes movies too?
And the what movies?
Apes movies. Matt Reeves is he made two
Planet
of the Apes movies.
Yep.
Yeah. He did Rise and War.
Yeah, and
no, he did War and Dawn.
Dawn, sorry, you're right.
But listen, and here's the thing about the score. It is unlike any Batman score that's come before it, and yet at the same time, it almost sounds like it could be like it's going to launch into something that like maybe Danny Elfman, derivative of Danny Elfman, and it never does. It's super simple. And the reason why I was reading about this, I didn't realize this, is what Chris was saying in terms of like the relation to the Star Wars-ness of it all, the Darth Vader's theme, because both of them are based on what's known as the funeral march or something.
That's right.
Yeah, so that's what we're hearing, and it just works so well. It's a simple motif. It's like if I was teaching a film class and I had to teach motif, this would be the great example of using a score motif to establish a character and what they're all about.
And since I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was actually going to say, like, sort of in response to you, Chris, you were saying that you were comparing Batman's theme to the Imperial March. When I was writing my thoughts down on this movie ahead of tonight, I actually compared Batman's theme to the Imperial March. Like,
that makes me happy.
Yeah.
But here's the thing I will point out, which nobody noticed. Since you just brought in, it's based on the Funeral March, right?
Yeah.
And that should relate back to Matt Reeves' greatest film. Every time we talk about Matt Reeves, it's Cloverfield. It's the Apes movies. What about Paul Bearer?
Paul Bearer.
Paul Bearer.
He did Paul Bearer.
The Paul Bearer with David Schwimmer. No, I've never seen it. But I am from now
saw
on.
that in theaters.
Paul Bearer.
I'm not surprised, Bob.
Don't you have to do that for Real 96, Nathan?
Is that 96? I think it is.
I think it is.
It feels like it's around there. If it's not
96,
94, 95 at least.
We're doing it. We got to do the stupids too, and car.
I'm ready for the stupid.
Carpool.
Oh yes, carpool.
I've seen carpool so many times.
But here's a movie that people are saying, oh, this is like, the Nolan movies are like Michael Mann, like Heat, and this new franchise is feeling like David Fincher, kind of 7-esque. But I'm thinking This is a lot like Blade Runner. This is something that a lot of people have not brought up. This reminded me a lot of Blade Runner with the look, the noir aspect, the voiceover. And I usually absolutely can't stand voiceover. I think it's one of the dumbest, laziest devices in film ever. But I actually like the voiceover here because you're actually being conveyed information that's not already being shown to you. And you're getting his thoughts in his diary that he keeps, which is almost kind of like a serial killer diary. But I think this is one of the few exceptions where voiceover actually works in the film, and it felt very Blade Runner-esque to me. Even though the final cut is my favorite version of Blade Runner without the narration, the point still stands.
Just a quick note about Batman. If you've ever read a Batman comic or you read Batman comics are loaded. Well, all comics are loaded with voiceovers, but Batman. There are certain Batman comics where his voiceover, his internal monologue is a diary. And I think The Long Halloween, year one, I think, with Frank Miller. And so this felt so in tandem with the source material in that way. It worked so well. It was really, really good. And the thing is, the thing that makes voiceover infuriating I think voiceover when done well when done right can be incredible. But the thing that can make it so infuriating is when it's either redundant or it's lazily communicating something. And in this case, it's doing neither. It's just sort of expressing, just his internal thought process and like shading his character and what kind of Batman Bruce Wayne we're getting. Now, here's the thing. Batman and Bruce Wayne, there's the whole thing. Oh, actually, Batman is the real character and Bruce Wayne is the mask. Yeah. We all know this and whatnot. But generally, there is some sort of balance, whether it's a comic book or in any sort of media. There's always a big balance of Bruce Wayne and Batman. In this film, there is no balance. It is all Batman. And when he is Bruce Wayne, he is just barely holding on. And here's what I thought in my head. I think because this is year 2 Batman, I'm thinking in my head, this is a guy who's still figuring out how to be Batman and Bruce Wayne. It's early. He has not figured out that balance. He has not figured out that perhaps he does need to have a more public role, and he's still, sort of grappling with how to juggle this duality. And right now, because he's so passionate about being Batman, it's all uneven. It's all about Batman, and there's no Bruce Wayne to speak of. And that is why that in that way it's very unbalanced. And sometimes it services the movie and it services the character, and other times when you sort of look at it from like a big macro sort of place with all the other stuff.
The franchise.
Yeah.
Probably most. Like I feel like there'll be more Bruce Wayne in the sequel because of his
probably
arc in the Batman. Like, you know what I mean? Like he'll be more comfortable with himself a little bit. Like it's because he kind of will also have dealt with his grief. He'll have dealt with how he is approaching himself as Batman, and that'll bring out Bruce a little bit more. And
he's gonna buy into a symbiote suit, and he'll do like a funny dance, and he'll turn evil.
No. Nathan, that's the sequel I would make.
I watched Superman 3 yesterday, which I love unironically, and he's the scene where he turns evil and he's flicking the peanuts. Like that is the greatest scene in the history of film, and I want to see like Bruce Wayne do something like that. Like he's just turned. He just turned shitty for like one act or whatever, and then he's got to redeem himself. I like that. He's, I don't know, picking up, he goes to Catwoman's house and has some kinky sex with her or something. I don't know.
You can get poison ivy or some kind of gas or something to make.
Yeah, I want to see a good poison ivy in this series, like a lesbian poison ivy that embraces her femininity. And
but what's interesting? Sorry,
you see that in the cartoons. I want to see like more interesting characters. I think the whole underworld gangster aspect of Batman is sometimes more interesting than the crazy villains like Carmine Falcone and Maroni, and the Penguin is a gangster.
Yeah, I was going to say nothing can stop me from watching this Penguin show. Number one, because the performance. Number two, because exactly what you're saying. Because
you want to talk about supporting actor Oscar, Colin Farrell.
God.
For this movie. If you just showed this movie like he was like a
you wouldn't know.
like a surprise cameo like Tom Cruise in Tropic Thunder. He's not in the credits. No one would know who it is. They'd be like, who is this guy? Like, you can't even tell it's him. It's so amazing. I loved it.
He had my favorite line in the movie, which was, "Are you playing good cop, bad shit cop?" That's fucking great.
I love the whole
scene
thing.
was great. Yeah,
The whole thing with the whole thing too with him, of course, being the Penguin, knowing his Spanish and the different types of birds, or the fact that they're having the conversation with the Penguin about are they talking about a pigeon? Are they talking about a falcon? Are they talking about a bat? He really was fantastic. And I think if we're talking about like the structure or the fact that this is a 3-hour movie, I think if anything where this movie kind of suffers is even at 3 hours length, it's sort of trying to balance all of these things, and the plot is very sort of noirish and convoluted.
It does have like 4 villains. Kind of a little bit.
It does.
Yeah, it's pretty jam packed.
I would say, Catwoman, I wouldn't call a villain. She's more of an antagonist. She's an antagonist.
Anti-hero would be the proper word.
She's a tweener.
Yeah. Riddler, and then here's the thing, it's literally they did the same thing that they did with Logan. They're doing the same thing that they did with Spider-Man Homecoming. It's like, okay, we're gonna do a Batman movie and just basically steep it in 7. And from the journals in the Riddler's house to his all the different setups that he does to sort of knock people off. It's almost like Saw-ish in a way. I mean, it all works. It all works really, really well. It's a great sort of just dark interpretation of everything. But what I found the hardest part to digest was just I feel like the mystery. It's like they focus too much on the plot. Oh, we lost Chris. I think he was having problems. Chris, come back. Chris, if you hear this, come back in, buddy. Click in and try to get back in here. I think I feel like some of the plot stuff just got too convoluted personally. I don't know about you guys. Did you have any problems with that?
I didn't have too many problems following the plot, but there was one major plot point that I take issue with, largely because for a Riddler who seems to have a rhyme and reason to everything he does, and a clear pattern of attacking people who he knows are inherently guilty. He goes after Bruce Wayne, even though Bruce Wayne is not in any way appear to be guilty of anything except being the son of his father.
He just kind of hates him because he's a rich kid.
It's a really but like every other reason, he has to go after everyone else. Falcone, the mayor, the commissioner, etc. They're all people that he can directly tie to this Gotham Renewal Fund that they're all using to just launder money and stuff.
It felt weak to me. It was weak.
I will tell you what could have fixed this. Because in the video that Riddler releases to the media, he talks about Edward Elliot. So what I was hoping was that somewhere between that point and the end of the movie, that we were going to get a reveal of Tommy Elliot as another orphan from that same orphanage who likely was pulling the strings or working behind the scenes with the Riddler, and somehow convinced him to go after Bruce Wayne,
Yeah,
that's
I would have liked to see
makes sense.
A Clayface reveal in one of these movies needs to happen. The fact that we haven't had Clayface yet, where it's like, oh, we caught the Riddler, and it's Clayface.
That's Clayface.
I feel like
fuck yes.
I don't think that we'll get that type of villain maybe in these Matt Reeves movies. I feel like Clayface might be too.
I feel like
I don't know. He fits that tone so perfectly.
I could be wrong.
There's so many Batman villains, and I know
just
you
the
got
actual physics of it. Like
to go with the popular ones, you got to go with the same 4 or 5 villains. But I don't know about you. I'm pretty much I'm good with the Joker. I don't need to see the Joker ever again.
No, it's enough.
You just say he's locked up in Arkham, and you can have a scene like Hannibal Lecter where he's locked up. I don't need to see him running around Gotham anymore. We've done that like 2-3 times already. So I want to see different villains. I want to see like Maxi Zeus when his gang of Olympus, Olympus god brainwashed, henchmen.
Or like King Tut.
King Tut or Egghead.
King Tut.
Clock King, Calendar King. Man. Clock King in the animated series was badass.
Crazy quotes.
Or like Firefly or KG Beast or
how
something.
About Killer? Have we gotten Killer Croc yet?
Well, he's in Suicide Squad.
Yeah, he's in other stuff, but not in a Batman, not Batman versus Killer Croc.
Frank, I mean, there is so much. There's so much potential, and that's what's interesting, and that's what's interesting about the Nolan movies, and that's what's interesting about this Reeves verse or whatever. It's this idea of like what Nathan was saying about like would that work, or was it you, Bob, who said it? Someone who said
I just said it,
the physics of it. How does it work in this universe? And that is the problem when it's so realer than real.
Thing. It's a tonal thing.
Right. Well, it goes back to the spectrum.
I don't see Clayface. I want to see Clayface, Nathan. I'm not saying that.
No, I totally agree with you.
I
just would like to see
doing it. I would like to see it too. I don't see it happening in whatever this franchise becomes.
It's kind of a shame.
They're gonna have they're not gonna have a guy made of clay.
They just gotta science the shit out of it. Just figure it out in a scientific way.
They might. I might be wrong.
You do know that there is going to be a spin-off series that takes place in Arkham.
Yeah.
So you could get that Clayface.
That might happen. I could eat my words there.
That'd be awesome. Man Bat and Clayface. Like that's all
I'd love to see Man Bat.
Now that's the show we need.
Yeah. It's a road trip show.
Yeah. You go into pure
traveling around the country, seeing America.
Mad Hatter
double feature with the Harley Davidson, the Marlboro Man that we need.
Jeez.
That's the double feature.
I did not expect that movie to come up.
I gotta tell you.
But wait, did you expect Paul Bearer to come up?
No, I didn't. I didn't. You're right. Yeah, I'm here for it.
That Chris,
I love it.
You come in with those deep cuts, and it just works so well. I would like to see. It would be great to get. Imagine you have about this. You could do Clayface, would be very interesting because then we do get that subterfuge. Or how about this? You get in the same, do what you did with the Riddler, but do it with the Mad Hatter, and imagine where that goes. If you know what I mean. I mean, that gets really dark.
Yes,
and it's like the Mad Hatter, and children are going missing, something like that. And then at the very end of that movie, after the whole escapade adventure is over, you have somebody, whether it's Mad Hatter or somebody else, probably not Mad Hatter, maybe like one of Mad Hatter's henchmen does what Nathan said, just shifts, and suddenly they're Clayface, and that leads you into the third movie, or that's they set that up for next time. It would just be friggin' it'd be crazy.
I'm down.
Shyamalan-esque, and it would just be like,
or Batman was Clayface the whole time.
What is who's the ventriloquist guy?
Scarface.
I'd love to see him too.
That would be awesome.
In this world, yes.
Yes, that'd be really cool.
Black Mask and I know Black Mask has been used in Birds of Prey, but it's not really. That was not the real Black Mask. We'll just pretend.
Nothing in that movie is the real anything.
Okay? Question: How does everybody feel about Alfred in this film?
Kind of a negative, I will say. And it has nothing to do with Andy Serkis. I think it's just the way the character is used.
I agree.
Very slight presence, and he's kind of there just for Bruce Wayne to react to. Doesn't really have his own agency, I felt. I love Andy Serkis. He does a fine job as an actor. Totally. I just felt like there was, in a 3-hour movie, you've got like 3 scenes with Alfred. I mean,
well, I kind of disagree with you guys there a little bit, but because for me, the whole, Alfred was really part of his arc. Is yes, he was distant from Alfred, but that hospital speech said everything you need to know. Like him saying he was not, I didn't know if I should have been your father, and I obviously chose not to. And that led to him becoming this adolescent, vengeful kid that we are introduced to at the beginning of the movie.
This lost kid with no guidance.
Right. He has no guidance. Alfred was not there for him. and I think the movie shows that. Once again, I think we're going to see a lot more of him in the sequels because they're going to form a tight bond, and we're going to actually witness that on screen.
I like that scene, and I agree with you, but I feel like before that, he's hardly in the film, so it didn't hold the same dramatic weight that it should have, at least in my opinion.
That's the problem.
He's underused. He's underused.
Yeah,
a lot, and that's the problem. But it's funny you say that. Is it the Bob? Let's try to get everybody straight here.
You can call me Bob. I just added the for the Batman
because it's cool. It's funny you say that because I just the other day before we did our Batman show, I had watched Batman Forever, and remember Alfred's whole speech in that. You know, little men, was it boys with a penchant for vengeance, or for revenge? They don't need encouragement; they need guidance.
Right.
And that was like his one, just sort of like, boom, I gotta go, I'm out. And so
that's Robert Pattinson's favorite Batman movie too.
Is it really?
Release the Schumacher cut.
He said it like
see the Schumacher cut.
Damn straight.
No, wait. You said Forever. You said Returns. I'm sorry. He said his favorite.
Forever.
Oh, I apologize. He said Returns was his favorite movie.
It's everybody's favorite Batman movie, or at least it should be.
It's not Jeff's.
Not mine.
Batman Forever, baby.
Yeah, I know.
That's not true, though. You know what? If you put a gun to my head and you say, "Hey, do you like Batman, Batman Returns, or Batman Forever best?" I might not be able to answer that because I like all of them for different reasons at different times. All I've ever said is that Kilmer is, I think, the most balanced one. But
let's say the most important thing here is too, like, there's a Batman for everyone now. Batman's had more like live action itinerations than any hero, I'm pretty sure, unless you guys can think of somebody else. I think it's 7 or 8. Yeah, I think like if you count even like the serials that came before Adam West, there's like
2 of those.
Yeah, I'm just saying there's a lot
Adam
of
West.
choice. You like
4.
That's why like comparing and yelling at each other over who's the best kind of doesn't make sense because like we have a buffet, people.
Well, that's what I meant at the beginning about it being like Shakespeare. Like you literally can take Batman and you can do Batman and Robin and be like, hey, let's go full on camp and have bat nipples and whatnot. Or you can literally have this darker, just the darkest, grittiest version of Batman, and all of it is going to be valid in some way. And I will say this, I still like Val Kilmer's Batman voice the best personally, but I have to tell you, I thought his performance, the embodiment of what he was trying to do, like I really, really felt him sort of living in this character. And my favorite moment in the whole movie,
Are you talking about Forever or the Batman?
No, I'm talking about the Batman right now.
Okay.
My favorite moment in the Batman, I think, is when he goes up to the top and he puts on he's about to glide down. And there's this brief moment, and we've never seen this in any Batman movie. There's a brief moment where he's terrified of the heights.
Absolutely.
And it's never explained. They don't explain it. They don't have to explain it. It's literally like this dude is still figuring this shit out and he is terrified. That's what's so interesting about what he's doing. And talk about the opposite of lazy voiceover. Here is showing and not telling us, showing us a guy who is so trying to embody this thing despite how terrified he might actually be inside of not only what he's attempting to do, but what he is slowly losing himself to. He slowly, every night, he goes out and he looks for trouble. He looks for guys to just beat the tar out of him. And even, there's that moment where he's crushing the dude's face and James Gordon is like, yo, hey!
Like, he's like,
uncalled for.
He's at the beginning of his arc, he has to fuck the pain away, pretty much.
Right, literally.
Yeah.
I will say, one of my... It's a good point. It is.
Imagine if they played the song.
Oh my
That's
God.
what this needed. Is some peaches.
Yeah.
Sucking on my titty like
you want to be calling me all the time.
Good night, everybody.
Would watch.
There's a lot of great shots in this film, and I think my favorite shot is a shot you might not even remember, when the scene before they go to the building where the bat signal's at, and they're both like, I didn't call you. Did you call me? And he's like, no, I didn't call you. There's a scene where the Batmobile is pulling up to Jim Gordon's car, and it's coming. The shot is from inside the car, and it's almost like a handheld shot, and the light is just from the high beams of the Batmobile. You just see Jim Gordon just nonchalantly get out. That little shot right there, I was like, wow, that's a great shot, because it feels like a candid shot of them just meeting up. Usually it's like there's a drone and there's a crane and a jib, but it was a very simple shot. So next time you go back and watch that, it's about halfway through the movie. It's a very, very simple shot, but it looks amazing, I thought.
Roger Deakins too represent, right?
Absolutely.
Great.
To piggyback on to what Nathan just said and talked about the Batmobile, and to piggyback on the previous thing about him being terrified and like literally us never getting an explanation why. Another great example of showing and not telling, like the sophomoric nature of year 2 Batman. We see that he's building the Batmobile for the first time. They never talk about it. And it's like if this was J.J. Abrams, there would be a scene.
Alfred would be like, what are you working on?
Yeah. He'd be like, they would turn to the camera and be like, so how are the parts coming along for the brand new Batmobile?
Oh yeah. Iron Man would be like, I'm working on the second prototype of the ZX-42, whatever. Right. No, you get it. Because that scene where they ambush the Penguin or whatever.
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
He revs up the Batmobile. That shit was awesome. Yes.
No, but it doesn't. But what's amazing is it's just like when he's going to jump off, he revs up the engine and then it short circuits for a second. It sputters out.
I did not notice that.
At least that's how I read that moment where he starts it up, and it's all like it again. Just like with Mandy and people who hate on Mandy and say, oh, there's no story. It's like, dude, there's tons of story. You just got to know where to look. And in the Batman, there's this whole narrative of, hey, I use a motorcycle. It's never talked about in the movie. I use a motorcycle. I want to graduate to a car. I'm building this custom prototype engine. I'm taking it out of the shop for the first time to take down the Penguin. Here I am revving it up because my whole thing is about being a warning and scaring the shit out of people. And I turn the engine, and how embarrassing, the engine doesn't work, which ties into the notions of screenplay tropes of like the what is it, like the hero that is like unsure of themselves or like still like finding their way and like that sort of thing. It's all there.
It's a Han Solo hyperdrive moment.
Yes.
Exactly.
Chris, totally right.
Star Wars theme.
Right.
Chris, totally right on that.
So, by the way, I just want to throw this out real quick because it totally illustrates like me and Jeff's relationship is him bringing up Mandy right now. And stop me if I'm wrong, but does everybody in the room like Mandy?
Never seen it.
I will say I really like Mandy, but I do feel it's a tad overrated.
I like Mandy.
But not a bad film at all.
Right.
At all. I enjoy watching it. I just feel like some people prop it up a little too much.
I'm not cutting Mandy into my skin.
No.
Like it's not that level.
I sat there. I mean, I have it just because they sent it to me, and I'm just like, all right, I guess I'll keep it. It's free. But
it's a gorgeous
my
film.
God, I hate that fucking movie so much. And it's, me and Jeff we're gonna have to have a Mandy episode just so I can sit there.
I can't wait. I can't wait for that, Chris.
I just, you know what? I gotta buy people's reasons for revenge, and I'm sorry, I'm just gonna go get something better because kind of homely.
I have a whole. Okay, it's not for the show, but I am about to wipe you with those words. I'm going to wipe the floor with those words. I got it. I got you covered 8 ways from Sunday. But we'll save that for the Mandy show.
We'll save it for the Mandy show. We're saving it for the Mandy show. Let's move on. I wouldn't go kill for that ugly chick. Moving on. So, in fact, let us segue because I know I was off camera for a couple of minutes. But did we talk about Catwoman?
No,
barely.
Okay, biggest
that was
surprise
year one Catwoman.
Yeah, year one Frank Miller Catwoman, and that's why I don't have a problem with her. She looks like Catwoman in Frank Miller's comic. I can't complain.
She was great.
She has the body of a 12-year-old boy, but other than that, I have no complaints.
I loved her performance.
And not only that, like they also use the Long Halloween Dark Victory narrative elements that were given to her backstory.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I love, since those were like my first ever Batman stories, I love that about her. Even to the point where she scratches
Yes.
Carmine's face with
Right.
3 fingers.
Yep.
Yep.
Just like in Long Halloween.
The only thing going back to what we were talking about earlier, as far as there's a Batman for everybody, I'm still waiting for my Batman, which is 70s Neil Adams Batman.
I was gonna say the same thing, Christopher. Thank you
Really?
very much. Yes, just
I'm
the whole
waiting
the whole laughing fish era kind of vibe, where it's just Batman. The stories are dark, but Batman's costume is colorful, and it's just that 70s vibe. I would love
How
to see
many times, like every 3 issues, he's shirtless with his cowl on, making out with somebody. Remember that? And
yes,
I'm sitting
absolutely.
there as like an 11-year-old going, "That's weird."
I want to see like S. Craig Zoller direct like a 70s
Oh my
Batman.
God,
man.
that would be amazing.
I mean, yeah,
Oh my
tickets
God.
sold. Tickets sold.
The ticket sold.
Love it.
Yeah.
There's a graphic novel I had for a long time. I wish I still had it. It's called The Greatest Joker Stories Ever Told. And
I
it's
know
like
this.
yeah.
I know
it's
this.
like a graphic novel that's this thick and has a lot of the old 70s Joker stories when he was a scary bad guy, like the laughing fish and stories like that, like so good. And I don't want to go off on a Joker tangent, but I feel like, I don't know.
I have
Joke-
that one. It's good.
Joker kind of represents a really shitty version of fandom that I don't want to get into anymore.
Nathan, I did not know you knew this much about or that you were this well versed in Batman. Like I'm blown
I love
away.
Batman. When I was watching, I was a huge comic book nerd growing up. That was my thing. I was a very, very, introverted loner kind of kid. I was really into comic books, Batman, Silver Surfer, stuff like that. When I watched this movie, I was like, these guys actually read the comic books. That's what it felt like during this movie. Like, Tim Burton, you can say what you want to Tim Burton. He's like, I never read a Batman comic or whatever. Or I've only, he watched the show and that was pretty much it. I love Batman 89. It's my favorite Batman. But this movie actually felt like somebody read the comic books, and
Yes.
paid attention to the continuity. The stuff with Falcone and Catwoman being Falcone's illegitimate daughter and getting scratched in the face, and Penguin actually being like an underboss and trying to work his way up, and he had the Iceberg Lounge and the club within a club. All that stuff is direct from the comic books, and it felt like my knowledge of the source material was being rewarded for, and they're actually like taking the stuff seriously instead of going, oh, Batman, and who gives a fuck? We'll just throw this shit in here, and people will be like, oh yeah, there's this guy named Carmine Falcone. We'll make him a serial killer, and he'll get superpowers at the end of the movie. That's you know what I mean? Like, that's how some comic books feel. You're like, what? Did you even read the comic books? Like, what? Why did you even put this character in here if he's nothing like it?
That's how I feel about the Crow movie. That's just how I feel about the Crow movie. Beautiful movie, but fucking terrible comic adaptation.
Like Constantine. I love Constantine.
Constantine, worst comic adaptation ever.
As far as the main character is concerned, it's the worst version of Constantine you could possibly do. Yeah, absolutely.
It just didn't need to be named that. It just could just be an awesome Keanu movie. That's all.
Yeah.
But you like Keanu so much, you're like, okay. Is it good? No. Do you own it? Yeah.
That movie is literally like studio executives like, well, Americans don't like British people's accents and like as a main character. So what do we do? So, we don't alienate the fucking flyover states. Like, who gives a shit? If it's a good movie, it's a good movie. Like Jason Statham now uses his accent in all his movies. Like nobody gives a shit anymore. It's just
well, I mean, they're not aiming at us anymore. They're aiming at like, we're not even the biggest market, so they don't care.
Exactly.
No, it's
China. Comic books have long since gone mainstream, and China is now a huge market that studios are desperate to get their stuff into.
Right.
Absolutely.
Did anybody notice this? All right, here's a real deep cut. And I agree, dude. If you have that comic book knowledge, you do get rewarded. You get rewarded so much because you pick up on all the little flourishes. Here's a flourish that I noticed.
I noticed it.
Exactly. It's deeper.
I used to read Batman comics. I totally agree with Nathan. I don't necessitate that to love a Batman movie, though. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely not.
Like, not at all.
No, but it enriches.
It does enrich it.
Yeah, it enriches the experience. So here's something that I noticed at the end that just had me stoked. And I loved the suit. The suit really worked for me. As someone who I hate the Nolan suit. I hate it.
I am so with
deeply.
you, Jeff. You don't even understand.
I hate them so deeply. I'm a big fan of the
loathe that suit.
Yeah, hate them so much while loving all of the 90s suits. I think they're all great in various different ways. This suit I really, really liked for a lot of reasons. It's a tactical suit. It feels like I don't know, he had the technology, but at the same time, it didn't feel like again, where is he on the spectrum? He's not on the campy side of the spectrum at all.
I'll ask a question to the group since you're talking about the suit. Are any of you guys familiar with the Batman Arkham video games? Because that looked like it was derived
sort of. I've seen
somewhat from Arkham Knight. Especially with like the bat, the bat symbol on the chest that was actually detachable.
Which is never explained, by the way. I had heard before, the buzz leading up to this movie was that was the gun that killed his parents, that he turned into a symbol.
I don't know.
That sounds like some madness. There they are.
Yeah. I don't know if that's what he's going with, but I do remember, at least it's clarified in Arkham Knight, that the bat symbol on the suit is actually where it's most bullet resistant.
Right, because it draws.
They want the target to be there. Yeah,
which goes all the way back to the Dark Knight Returns when we see that he has Kevlar right in the center or whatever. When he gets shot out of the sky, when he has the grappling,
the Dark Knight Return. Yeah.
But there's a moment at the end where, first of all, I just love seeing this dude just like take bullet after bullet and just like being bulletproof. It was really cool. Like, I don't know how realistic it was. Not that.
Yeah. Like I question, even if you have a bulletproof mask on, getting shot in the head. I don't know.
Making it, man. It was really cool.
Yeah, but like the force a bullet hits.
Yeah, well, they did kind of show that at the end when he gets hit with the shotgun.
Right, which
I'm done.
Thank you.
Guys, I'm out.
And he takes the adrenaline shot thing was awesome. I'm not.
Not adrenaline. Not adrenaline. It was fun. That was going to be my Chris. Venom. That's what I was going to say. That was he fucking took. No, it's cool. He took Venom, dude. That was straight up fucking Venom.
You think he took Bane's Venom?
We can use it in the future. Yes,
Okay, I mean,
we have it. We can use it if we think.
If that's what it was, that's fine too.
I think they're setting up a whole universe, just like the Spider-Man.
Yeah, that's fine. If it's Bane's Venom, that's fine.
That's one thing that I'm a little kind of afraid of here, because one of my some of like the nerd pandering movies that I've hated the most are the ones that kind of are too focused on setting stuff up.
Yes.
And not so much on the movie that they're making.
But
you
mean like Batman opening a file on his computer and then having all the symbols of
right?
I did not.
But this doesn't do that. It doesn't make that fatal mistake.
No.
It does make a fatal mistake at the end of the film. I did not like the secret scene at the end. I thought it didn't work for me at all. And
with Joker?
Yes. No, it didn't. We didn't need that. Absolutely
no, we
not.
didn't. We did not need that.
I completely feel it's a tip to the hat for people. You know what I mean? Kind of like vampires.
Because at this point,
hold on. I did a deep dive into the Joker for this movie, and I did find an article. There was actually another scene that was cut from the movie.
Yes,
where Batman, really concerned about the Riddler, visits Arkham and tries to ask the Joker about the Riddler and what he thinks about it. And that scene, it was shot, but it was cut. So I feel like if they wanted to include the Joker in that final scene, they should have included that earlier scene where Batman goes to the Joker. Like, you can't have it both. Like, I feel like
you can see it's clearly the Joker in that scene, but it's just
I really hope they don't do that next. I'm with you, Nathan, man. I just
that he doesn't want to.
Yeah, no Joker, at least not until a third movie, if you get a third movie.
Absolutely. I thought that's what this movie was going to be. I thought the Batman was going to use the Joker to help him catch the Riddler. The Joker would be locked. The Joker would be locked up in Arkham, like Hannibal Lecter. Yeah, I would have been fine with that. That would have been cool. But no, it wasn't anything like that.
That might have been a little too like Red Dragon for.
Apart from that, I also kind of look at that in the same way that I look at the Venom. It's just when you see him being in Arkham,
you're just guessing that, right? There's no proof on that, right?
What,
the Venom thing?
No. I watched that. So I watched that scene. It's green liquid that he injects into his body. There is an old. This is from '88. There's a one shot sort of trade paperback called Batman Venom.
Or
Batman.
Is it from the Lazarus Pit?
It could. I was thinking that too. It could have been Lazarus.
Batman would never willingly use a Lazarus.
Yeah, he's a goody two shoes.
But there is a comic book where he does use venom and he gets addicted to venom. A little girl drowns, and he lets he blames himself, and so he gets really hooked on venom for a while.
Yeah, it was a miniseries.
It was a miniseries, right? And it was before Bane. So Bane didn't even exist yet, and Bane's use of venom didn't exist yet. And so I don't know. I do know that Robert Pattinson had read Batman Shaman, which came out roughly around the same time as Batman Venom. It does not. I could totally imagine him using venom for that, and plus it makes it a lot cooler. That it's like, what's the one thing that would allow him to push through after getting shot that many times, taking a shotgun to the chest? Fucking venom. It's perfect for a Batman like this.
I'm not disagreeing. I was just wondering. I was just asking if there was something I had missed.
No. Conjecture.
Because
Bob, I thought it was adrenaline too.
It's just like it seemed like that's what adrenaline does too. I mean, he literally shoots himself up and starts screaming.
It was awesome.
It reminded me of the scene from it was the Jason Statham movie.
Crank.
It reminded me of Crank.
Yes.
With the adrenaline sequence.
And then literally after that sees a hanging electricity thing and just decides impulsively to jump out for it and cut it down to save everybody.
Okay, in that scene, why does he cut? I guess it doesn't matter because he's gonna fall, but he cuts above his arm instead of right below.
Yeah, right.
I was like, okay. I was like, all right. I guess.
I think he was in fuck it mode at that time.
I was in fuck it mode.
I'm all jacked up
he
on
knew
Mountain
he was
Dew.
going to hit the water.
Yeah, so he's ready to die for the people, I guess, or whatever. Yeah.
Well, I did. That was a little. That was also kind of goofy. That there's a moment where he's like, I don't even care if I live or die, and it's like, I kind of feel like going back to the idea of like they're doing such a good job of showing and not telling. That's like a thing. Like, why didn't you just show us that? Like, why did you have to tell us that?
That's kind of his.
Even need to tell us that because one look at Bruce Wayne and you can tell he
just doesn't care about anything.
Who does he tell that to? Does he tell that to Catwoman? He's just like, I don't care.
To Alfred.
Yeah, but that's his character. That's his character at the time. He develops his character as the movie goes on, and he actually does care about saving people and not just about vengeance. And so that little line that he gives, is it necessary? No, but he's just kind of like, I don't even care. Like,
it might just be like a character progress marker.
Just very brooding. Yeah, just very emo, whatever.
It's great, dude. It's just I definitely have to watch this like one or two times more to like sort of unpack it.
I'm definitely going to try to watch it again in theaters at least one more time.
I probably will too.
Yeah.
I was going to like, as far as nitpicking, I wanted to say we were talking about the tonal scale. Yeah. And for the tone this movie's going for, I had 3 instances of things that truly bothered me. And this is not dialogue or story really. It's just like the actual filmmaking. Like for the tone this movie's going for, I found one, the ramp appearing out of the blue perfectly so his car could jump over the giant fireball.
It was a transporter moment.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If that happened in a transporter movie or a Bad Boys movie or something, I wouldn't even question it. I'd actually like it. But in this movie, I was like, really? You're just going to put a ramp like that perfectly? I was like, this isn't that movie. I feel like it's below Matt Reeves to do that.
I'm with you.
It's just below the movie. I was like,
that was a weird scene because
it was. I mean, the shot was cool, car coming through the flames and stuff. But I was like, to achieve that, there had to be another way.
The Penguin causes a horrific car crash on an interstate or a highway, and I'm sure there has to be casualties. And Batman is just, I got the Penguin. Like, and I get it. He's in that vengeance mode.
I'm just talking literally about the ramp perfectly showing up.
He's not really thinking about saving people, but I'm like, dude, there's like people back there that probably could use you right now. Yeah. Like, could you? So that scene bothered me a little bit. I'm like, but again, I get it. He's not in that mode yet, but still, like, you could have been like,
for me, it was the ramp though. I wasn't even as bothered by
the ramp.
It was like that ramp appearing was just like too silly. The second one was I love the, like, Jeff, you talked about the parachute when he's actually gets scared. But that landing, I don't care if you have armor on. That would kill
dead.
a human being.
I was like,
mush. You guys could have thought a different way to do this for this tone. If it's a different tone, I wouldn't have questioned it. If that happened to, like, George Clooney, I wouldn't care, or it'd be fine. But if it happens to him or Christian Bale, I'm like, that a human being's bodily organs get crushed.
The second you accept Batman, you kind of have to give it license.
No, I don't agree.
I agree with Chris.
I don't agree. Don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. It's what the tone of the movie is going for.
It was almost like he was going to stand up and go, "I'm okay." I'm okay.
Yeah, and then the third one for me was the neck bomb explosion. He was too close to it.
Killed. I don't care
He's
what
too
you
close to it. I don't understand the execution of that. It's below Matt Reeves. There's no reason Robert Pattinson's face needed to be that close when it exploded. I don't care if he put his arm up. That's not how this works.
You know what's crazy?
The fact that he physically has nothing
it made me cringe. I was like, I can't believe you guys did this.
It's beyond the edge of
none of these things
believability.
bothered me.
It tonally is wrong. It is wrong.
I did think that with the explosion right away. I was like, he should be
dead. This is stupid.
Nah.
Yeah, don't.
Why
is his face
it should
not burnt
You're wrong for not bothering because it's terrible.
You know what it is?
I love the movie.
I think that it really does work. What Chris is saying, it's like the moment that you accept Batman, you have to accept these things.
Okay.
There's a scene in The Dark Knight I also hate when he jumps out of that skyscraper.
Oh, there's a lot of scenes in The Dark Knight
and lands on his back on top of a taxi. I was like, okay, just because he has armor on, you can't survive that fall.
No, I'm with you on that one because that scene is the only scene that still bugs the crap out of me.
Right. And it's because of the tone of the movie. Like, I really want to stress that. I love dumb movies. I think Jeff and Nathan know that. I would be perfectly fine with that in, like, a Michael Bay movie or something. That's fine. But in this, I was just like, he would be dead.
You know what it is too? It might be because we know that Batman is a man, that he has no powers. And therefore it's part of what makes his character his character. So to see him and it does happen in a lot of Batman lore, even when I'm watching the Batman, the animated series, and I try to translate what he's doing in the animated series into like seeing like an actual flesh and blood human do it. Like when he jumps just even from like a really high building and like lands on his feet. Yeah. I just think about my knees and my ankles and like the impact and like, you just kind of like have to let these things go. I'm not
Jeff,
saying
I'm willing to go with that.
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff I'm willing to go with. But that, I mean, really, next time you watch it, that parachute hit is nuts. No human being can survive that.
It is nuts.
No human being, unless he was all juiced up with the venom, maybe.
You want to know something? And that's the other thing too, is like perhaps who knows what he is. Who knows what he is doing?
Yeah,
and I'll tell you this too.
He's been juicing that whole time.
He might have been juicing that whole time. I'll tell you this too, because you see him without his shirt off, and he doesn't look. I mean, he's beefed up in that suit, but then when he's like just Bruce Wayne, shirtless, he seems a little frail.
He's the scrawniest Batman. Yeah,
he's a scrawny Batman.
I really support the Batman, the stuntman. He's my favorite Batman.
Yeah, kudos to the stuntman.
I will say this: there is something to his walk, his Batman walk, the way that he moves as Batman. It's fantastic. It's unlike anything we've ever seen. Yeah,
he really focuses on his footsteps a lot.
Yes, it's all got with the score and the footsteps.
It's almost got the Jurassic Park T-Rex showing up thing when he's walking into a room, which I really like.
It's true, man. It's so true. And you can almost like see Robert Pattinson like concentrating on like trying to embody this idea of this guy who like is forcing himself to be fearless and forcing himself so it's so interesting because he's like he's scared deep down inside, but he's also bloodthirsty. Like he's super bloodthirsty. Here's a part you want to know what didn't work for me in the movie, like really didn't work for me. Again, I always talk about like the core tenets of Batman. What's one of them? Not taking a life, not not using guns. And normally if it was any other Batman movie, I'd go, yep, because that's what Batman does. But I got to tell you, this is a Batman where I'm like, kind of like this Batman might kill somebody, number one. And kill someone on purpose. Right. And number two, when he prevents Selena Kyle from executing Carmine or whatever, like when there's several and the dirty cop, she puts the gun to his head and he's like, no, we don't do that. And I just felt so like
Fake.
contrived. Yeah, it was so contrived to me because I'm like, there's nothing. You are literally just doing this because it's Batman and Batman has to. There is nothing I've seen of this Batman in this universe, in this tone, in this story that would suggest otherwise, that would not be okay if some dirtbag bought it. Like, he just would not give a shit. It felt so against type. And that's me being like the fundamentalists, like, no, these are the things that make Batman Batman. It honestly, trying to embody this core trait of Batman in this world almost felt like a betrayal to the character that was being cultivated, because that Batman would allow people to die. He just wouldn't give a shit.
Well, I think it's early on in his career. He's still struggling with that. Like, it's year 2. You know, he does tell Catwoman no guns. Like, can't go.
Right.
You know,
Like,
so he is struggling with that, you know.
Yeah,
Him
he's
hating
trying to figure
guns
out what
because
the
of his
rules
parents
are.
makes sense to me.
Yeah, and also, because he doesn't want anyone to like suffer what his parents are. A huge one thing that they show and don't tell is at the funeral sequence, Bruce Wayne looks at the dead mayor's son. You know,
Oh,
and
yeah,
I feel
a
like
lot.
he
Yeah,
identifies
a lot.
with
Yes.
that kid, and whatever the mayor may
It was well done.
may have
That was well
done,
done.
he certainly, like, you can tell that he's resolved to make sure that the killer is brought to justice.
That scene, by the way, is fantastic in the funeral, because you can
is.
hear the car coming and the people are screaming outside. You're like, the whole time you're like, oh my God, something horrible is about to happen. You can feel that. So he did a great job in that scene of building dread and tension. And that brings me to the scene that I have one of the biggest problems with as far as the pacing of this movie is concerned. And it could have been cut in half, is the scene where Gil Colson comes out of the club and he's trying to get Catwoman to come with him in his car. And we see the Riddler is in his car. We can hear him breathing.
Yeah.
And she's like sensing something. And she's like, oh, I got to go. That part right there was fantastic and creepy. The scene should have ended right there. We all know what's about to happen to Gil Colson. We don't need to see him walking to his car, getting bludgeoned by the Riddler, getting duct taped. We've already seen that happen with the mayor.
That could have been cut.
It was a real 1950s edit. It was like, let's see him do everything up, even though the audience completely knows it's going to be.
Because we see what happens to him. Like, where's Gil Colson? And then he's got a bomb attached to his face. Like,
right.
That right when Catwoman's like, I'm good, and then she kind of looks to his car, he just cut right there, and it would have been super creepy. And we all get what's about to happen.
There was some editing problems in the movie for me. Like, if I had to criticize some craft in the movie, it was editing. The part when the Batmobile shows up for the first time, I thought the geographical edit of that scene was very confusing. Like, you had Catwoman looking around the corner of a car, and then Robert Pattinson's body was there, and it looked like she was right next to him. But she wasn't.
You're so right.
It was geographically speaking, it was badly edited. That might be a weird nitpick, but I got what was going on by the end of it, but I shouldn't have been confused what was happening.
The longer the film went on, the more I felt it didn't get all the way there, but I kind of felt it starting to buckle under its own weight, almost folding in on itself with all the story it's trying to tell, because he goes to Falcone and he tells him his version of the story. Then he goes to Alfred, and then Alfred tells him the version of the story. And he goes back to Falcone, and it's like, all right, we get it. Like, at that point of the movie, I was like, okay, can we wrap this up just a little bit, please?
You really don't need the first one. You just need the two. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, I was expecting, when he went to Falcone, I was expecting Bruce Wayne to just lose his shit and just, like, throw down in there, because
I wanted to see that.
I really wanted to see him snap. I really wanted to see the line between Bruce Wayne and Batman blur just ever so slightly more. And that could have been a great way to do it. A great place to do it.
I appreciate that he's not a ninja in this movie, where, in all the other movies, he's bataranging around, he's crashing through skylights.
Or he just disappears.
And this movie, it's 3 hours of Batman and Bruce Wayne knocking on doors going,
I love that. I love seeing that.
Is the Penguin here? Is Carmine Falcone here? I loved it. He's just checking shit out. I loved it.
We got the rule of threes. We literally got the rule of threes.
He's a flatfoot, man.
First time he does it as Batman, then he does it as Bruce Wayne, and then he does it as like sneaky Bruce Wayne.
Yes,
And
Sneaky
which is kind of weird how it's sort of out of order.
Is that
the scene in the club was awesome too. When they go into the club within a club and Catwoman is his eyes, that whole scene was fantastic too. There's some really great scenes in this film. Absolutely.
Also, that showed. I thought that scene specifically showed how he didn't give a shit about only his mission. He doesn't give a fuck about what she is doing.
That's true.
Exactly.
And she calls him on it later in the movie. She says she calls him on it, but that was a perfect example. He doesn't care about the missing friend. It's you're Batman. You kind of should care about that too.
She's in some eyes wide shut danger there, and
yeah, I don't know her.
He's like, I don't care. You're about to get killed by all these people. You're gonna get made. Just tell me what's going on. I love that. Was a good scene.
Eyes wide shut.
She's like, I need to get out of here. He's like, I don't give a fuck. Just give me what I want.
Just keep pushing that woman into danger. It's fine.
In all honesty,
Okay.
Between that and also the whole thing with the renewal project, what it could have been kept, even the whole thing about Gotham and the lies beneath Gotham, which is a very sort of Batman comic trope thing that we've definitely seen in comics. But frankly, I didn't even need that element. I could have just simply been the Riddler is killing people in Gotham and James Gordon, which by the way, I loved seeing the camaraderie and just the I mean, he was really his sidekick. Gordon was really like Batman's sidekick, or vice versa.
And Jeffrey Wright,
it's my favorite.
So good.
So good.
He's my favorite Jim Gordon of any.
He was great. He was just phenomenal.
What?
He's a real dude. He says man a lot, and I love that. He's like, man, look, this shit is crazy right now. We got to get a hold. I love that. He's not he's like Batman. He's still new to this stuff.
And you see them trying to solve mysteries.
Gordon's been he's been naturally underserved through all the live actions. In general,
that's not true. In Nolan's movies, he's
stuff.
I mean, Gordon is
I prefer Jeffrey Wright to, but
I do too.
They both are good. I also like that is okay.
I'm not a Nolan fan, so
two of my favorite elements from Nolan's movies, I professed how much I don't like them, are Heath Ledger's Joker
deserve the Oscar.
And friggin' Gary Oldman as Commissioner Gordon is great. They're both great.
Good.
They're both great.
I would pick Jeffrey Wright though if I had to.
They're both.
I
good.
like Jeffrey Wright
good.
a lot, but I'm a stickler, and this is one of our points of constant contention. I'm a purist, so I want the character that's on the page, and they have to look like that, or I have a fit. I love Man of Steel. I love Larry Fishburne. It was Larry Fishburne, right?
Yes.
Yeah. But it's Perry White, not Perry Black. Go fuck yourself. I do not like it. But that's how much I like this movie. It won me over. Because one, I like Jeffrey Wright a lot. Two, it didn't bother me. Nothing in this movie that deviated bothered me. And that goes to show you how much they did right. And yes, Bob, some of the things, the whole parachuting thing, all the little things.
I wish Mythbusters was still on just to do that.
Oh my God!
Just to show how much a person would die from that.
You would die so much.
But,
I let those things go because this movie does so much right. What am I going to do? Complain about the little things?
No, we're just nitpicking.
It's all nitpicks.
This is all nitpicks now. But
I do love it.
Seeing them work together and seeing the detective work. And again, we've seen a little bit of it. We see a little bit of it in Batman Forever. We literally get it for one scene. And you know what? That one scene was wow, that's great. We even get to see him solve a mystery because that's what Batman does. Yeah. And here they just pull on it like taffy. I mean, they really
what does the DC stand for? Detective Comics.
Right.
Yeah.
And Batman is always billed as the world's greatest detective.
Right. And we really see that in action. We see how what's so interesting to watch the relationship with the cops. The cops are so antagonistic towards him. And yet at the same time, he keeps figuring shit out. And so they tolerate him because Jim Gordon and because he's figuring shit out, and then like they see why he's there and how he's like looking around. It's just even the way he's looking at everything, and we know he's recording with his eyeballs or whatever, but it's just like just even the expression on his face, how subtly how he subtly observes everything. It's just great. It was really, really, really well done, and I would love to see it. I'd love to see more of that. But again, to go back to the whole idea of like, I literally didn't need anything more. You could have kept it so simple in that the Riddler the Riddler having a motive that's not related to some sort of political intrigue or corrupt systems, and it's just there's some more pedestrian or personal reason that the Riddler might be murdering, or even just to get a rise out of the Batman, because they kind of term him, he's kind of like a Zodiac killer or whatever.
Traditionally, that's what he does. Try to get a rise out of Batman.
Try to get a rise out of Batman, and it could have just been that. It could have just been that and nothing more, and I would have been happy.
It feels like they almost wanted their cake and eat it too there a little bit, because they added his obsession with the Batman,
right,
on top of the renewal story arc too. It kind of worked like in both ways a little bit. Maybe it weakened both sides of that, but
I think the reason why this works so much, and we touched on it a little bit before, is just that it pulls from all these different comics. It pulls from the video games. It pulls from the animated series as far as the production design is concerned. There's that big Art Deco-y kind of look to some of the interiors and stuff. It's like the best mishmash of Batman that we've ever had, and that's why so much of it works.
One of the things I want to see them, and they touched on this a very little bit in the Nolan movies, is that a lot of these criminals only exist because Batman exists.
Yeah.
Right.
Like Joker's like, you complete me, basically. They didn't really delve into it that much, where if Batman didn't exist, a lot of these crazy villains probably wouldn't have purpose.
It's like a staple of DC Comics almost too.
They would just wither away,
Which goes back to the idea of that what Batman does, and this is something I've never considered until this movie. What Batman does is actually really selfish in that, yes, he's a hero. Yes, he's saving lives. Yes, it's a crusade against crime, a one-man crusade against crime, but also the reality is that he is just as psychotic as the rest of them. And that the way that it's not about changing things. It's just about a therapy session at night after night of taking out his anger and fury and aggression on those, and having and renewing the supply over and over and over again, instead of doing what any rational person would do and finally just end the Joker and end these guys.
How many murders is he indirectly responsible for just not killing the Joker? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Batman's villains are at least a lot of the main ones, especially the Riddler and Joker and all, and they're kind of a mirror image of him. Like Batman can look at them and say, "There, but for the grace of God, go I." You know what I mean? Like, like he could have been them had he lost his mind in the wrong direction. They could have been him.
He lost his mind.
If they went
That's
right.
Bob.
Yeah,
that's exactly it. He lost his mind in the opposite direction of his villains.
Yeah,
that's what it is. That's totally what it is. And we see that you see, and the thing is, in other iterations, there's enough Bruce Wayne to at least have like some semblance of like, hey, this guy's actually like a normal guy who dresses up like this. But in this movie, he is borderline psychotic. He is borderline on the edge.
The Riddler realizes that in this movie, right? Like the Riddler realizes that him and the Batman do share something. But what I love about the Riddler is him just straight up admitting, like, yeah, I can't do it physically. Like he knows he can't physically do it.
Yeah,
a bunch of incels from the internet to do it for me.
He straight up says, "I played you. I got you to do the heavy lifting for me."
Right.
Guys, we are at 1 hour and 23 minutes. Let's take the last 7 minutes. Let's wrap this up. Final thoughts, final things. Let's end at a nice round 90 minutes.
Half of the Batman.
Yes, we talked about half of that. Although Nathan and I once did Nightmare Alley back in December, and it was
2.5 hours.
It was almost the same length as the movie itself. Just,
I mean, we did 4 hours on Jingle All the Way. I mean, come on.
we did do 4.
We did 4
Yes.
hours. Well,
Chris,
to be
Chris,
fair,
we
half of
didn't
that
talk
wasn't
about
about Jingle All the Way.
Yeah.
We determined we're obsessed with shared universes, so we linked a bunch of universes together.
We're gonna bust that record for Paul Bear's Super Show that we're all gonna come back and do.
Hell yeah.
Right?
Hell yeah.
Yes. I'm all about
now
it.
I gotta watch it.
I mean, I'll watch it.
You know, I got to be honest. That has been the most rewarding thing. You know, getting assigned a movie like The Bully or whatever. When I've done Nathan's podcast, it's Big Bully. What's great is it's like everybody wants to do Scream or fucking whatever the big movie is, and you're gonna get some tread of the same sort of stuff. Watching Big Bully and rediscovering it, and then like coming up with like hot takes or like creatively interpreting this film, that's the most rewarding stuff. Those are the best. That's the best shit.
That's
to get
like we're talking about the Batman, but like everyone on Earth is talking about the Batman. No one's talking about Big Bully. So like, any take you have about Big Bully is a fresh take.
Or Dunstan checks in,
right?
Or Theodore Rex, which is a 1996 movie.
Yeah, no, I know it. I know.
Oh, I've seen it.
You know what we should do? We should do a show where we just watch and talk about shitty movies.
It's called the Real 96 Podcast.
Yeah. Oh, it exists. It exists. It's really
that's
great.
Where
I actually have a Theodore Rex episode myself. Like, that movie is a trip, man.
Let's how about this? Let's go around. Can everybody just sort of plug their ish real quick as we wrap it up here? And I'm going to do the sponsored. We have to do riotstickers.com sponsorship, and we'll wrap it up. So everybody go around. I want to thank everybody for coming on the show, and I would love to have you all back for another movie when it makes sense, like some big movie that's coming. We'll come back and we'll do this again because this was so good. I really enjoyed this. Let's all go around real quick, trying to be mindful of time here, and just plug your shit. Go ahead,
Bob.
If you have shit.
Is it me?
Yeah.
I'm at Thundergrunt Bob on both Twitter and IG. My podcast is called Thundergrunt and thundergrunt.com.
Word bird. Nate, you got anything you want to plug? Nate-Dogg?
No, so I'll just close out with my wish list for future movies in this storyline, if that's okay.
Yes, go ahead.
All
right. Number 3, Cassandra Cain.
Okay.
Number 2, The Court of Owls. And number 1, and this is not negotiable, Tommy Elliott / Hush. That's what I want to see.
Oh, Hush. I love it. Love it. Chris?
You can find me at sinfulcelluloid.com, sinfulcelluloid on Instagram. The new YouTube is Celluloid Sins, which we're building back up. So,
you did it. You rebooted it. Awesome.
Yeah, and I stuck that on the other YouTube, which is Danzig Verotic Entertainment, which there should be some stuff that I'll be putting up soon because we got a tour coming up.
Word.
And that's about it.
Awesome. Nathan?
So we've got the Genre Blast Film Festival. We're playing action, horror, sci-fi, fantasy, all kinds of crazy shit genre films. We play that every Labor Day weekend at the Alamo Draft House, Winchester, Virginia. We're taking submissions for films and screenplays now on filmfreeway.com. Check out Genre Blast Film Festival. I've got the podcast, the Real 96 Podcast, where we go through every single movie released in 1996, one by one. There's like 300 movies. We're like on number 40 or something like that now.
Nice.
So we've had some doozies, include like Dunstan Checks In, Biodome.
Dude, me and you did Mr. Wrong.
I did 90 minutes on Mr. Wrong. I'm about to drop Big Bully with Jeff. I had some audio issues that I'm fixing. But like just any shitty movie, any good movie from 96, we just pick it apart. And you can catch me on Twitter and Instagram at Lugenhausen. That's LOOGENHAUSEN. And I've got a novella coming out in May called Love Potion 666, which features zombies addicted to fuck dust. So,
Oh yeah.
How can you not?
That's a pitch right there.
Just so
There you
you
go.
know, I still have nightmares about the Mr. Wrong standee that I would see in the movie theaters. It freaked me out. Just so you know.
I very quickly would like to plug riotstickers.com, that the official sponsor of the Frumess channel. As you can see right here, they made this beautiful banner right here. You can get all of your sticker needs from riotstickers.com. Sharpie Riot is the man. We're doing a special promotion with them. Instead of $59, you can get 50% off. It's $29.50 with the promo code Frumess. The link to that is down in the description of this video. I mean, you really can't go wrong. 3 inches by 3 inches. That's a lot of space for printing up your design. And here's a quick 60-second video from the guy from Less Than Jake.
We make stickers, banners, and buttons too. Posters and promo cards. There's nothing we can't print for you. From stage backdrops to bass drum heads. We can print on shirts. We can print on hats. We can print on pants. Cheap prices and high quality. Quick turnaround times and free shipping. We also offer free artwork support. Great customer service and so much more. Riotstickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. Riotstickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. Riotstickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. Riotstickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb.
All right. And that brings our show to a close. Thank you so much. I want to thank everybody. I'm going to boot you all out because I'm going to do my Patreon thing real quick. I'll see you all next time. We'll talk, guys. You all rule. This was so great.
Thank you
Peace.
for having.
Pleasure to be here.
Thank you, guys. Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you very
Peace and
much.
hair grease. Peace and hair grease. Do you guys know about the Patreon?
Hey guys, what's going on? It's Jeff. So I've decided to make a Patreon. What is Patreon? I don't know how to define a Patreon. Let me look it up. Patreon is a membership platform that makes it very easy for creators to get paid for the things that they're already creating. I want to do it full time. I want this to be my full-time job. In my efforts to make that happen, I've set up this platform. Is it going to work? Is it going to be successful? I don't know, but I would rather try and crash and burn than not try at all. The goal is to create enough passive revenue so that I can continue to do this full-time, uninterrupted. Why? Because I love to do this. I love creating content. I love making videos. I love shooting films. I love doing podcasts. In case you couldn't tell, I love to talk and I never shut the fuck up. So right now I've kept the Patreon incredibly simple. There's 2 tiers, and that may change in the future. The Murdergram is a simple way to extend support for all of the hours and hours of free content on the channel for nothing more than $1. 38 cents goes to Patreon. What's $1.38, eh? It's less than a cup of coffee, but it's a great way that you can show support for very little effort. When you divide that $1.38 by the hours and hours and hours of time spent listening to this endless drivel of content, the dollar cost average works out. Next up is the YouTube Casualty for $6.66. The YouTube Casualty is loaded to the gills. Enjoy the archive ad-free, as well as ad-free early access to special docu-style podcast videos, music reaction commentaries, and the like, a month before they drop on YouTube, loaded with ads, I might add. You're also going to get exclusive content and behind-the-scenes content that is not available on YouTube or anywhere else. So you get to peek behind the veil. And believe me, there's a couple of choice pieces. Most of all, more than anything, whether you join the Patreon or not, I just want to thank each and every one of you that comes to the channel, that watches all the shows, that leaves comments, that participates, that subscribes. That's really the most important thing. This is just trying to find a way to earn a living as an artist. And with that, thank you for my TED Talk. Join the Patreon because we need you!
66 cents.